Welcome back, children of the night, to Blood and Syrup, a Vampire the Masquerade Lies Play podcast. I am your host, Count Vlad von Lestat, drinker of blood, keeper of the chronicle, and all-around a spooky dude. The Coterie met with the prince and found themselves a temporary new home. Iris agreed to the prince's terms to become Lieutenants of West Montreal. Ridley rolled with Nathan Dinkledorff and ended up growing attached to his new crew member. And Everett focused on the task at hand as they received new apartments from Angelo Di Santi. Will the Coterie finally manage to rest, recover, and begin their war on the orphans? We'll find out, but first, abandon hope, all ye who listen here. Having successfully made contact with and having sort of successfully met and agreed to work with Angelo Di Santi of Di Santi Medical, the wealthy sort of med tech entrepreneur has offered you a new home for the time being, the Morgue in one of his hospitals. As he's indicated, his goals are far-reaching. He would like to kind of control all of the medical facilities in Montreal, kind of build up an empire for himself. But for you guys in particular, this could not come at a better time, as of course our beloved TJ Malone's is burnt and Iris's condo has been assaulted by like vampiric SWAT folks, which generally speaking means it's not a great place to return to. So having agreed to assist him in his quest in exchange for safe shelter and a friend in a powerful place, you've arrived at the morgue. We'll say what I guess I can actually just ask you this: what kind of morgue would you like to live in? Would you like to live in a sort of the options I'll give you: large hospital, teaching hospital, or funeral home?
I mean, if we want to have should we have this conversation in character, Tom, or is this just
sure?
Let's kind of meta way?
I mean, I think I was going to say let's do it in a meta way, but I think it's something we could discuss in character. So, he gave you the options. The funeral home is a little bit outside of Montreal. It's not like right downtown. The big hospital is not the one that Emily was in and that Dr. Skull worked at. It's one of the smaller hospitals, but it is still a large hospital. We'll say maybe it's like one of those specialist ones that, deals in cancer or something that has a kind of a more specific focus that keeps it busy but smaller. And the teaching hospital is attached to one of the universities. So it's got a morgue facility operated by Di Santi, because universities don't got money for that shit. Sad. He gives you the options, and you have a few moments to decide.
Well, I mean, for my 2 cents, the morgue sounds like the only real choice. I mean, hospitals don't ever close, hospitals proper. So there's no guarantee we wouldn't be spotted coming and going.
Well, I think it's supposed to be the kind of place he owns, though. Like, I don't think he's saying, like, go there, you can't tell anyone anything. Like, we got to be around. Here's my only concern about going out of town is, A, they're going to notice us because we'll fucking stand out in a small crowd. And B, if we're in some sort of empty building outside of town, it makes us rife for, shall we say, explosives and assaults. Whereas if we're in a nice big hospital, we hide out, we get a fucking office or something, and we just hustle bustle in out. Put a lab coat on Everett. He's fucking tall. He looks like a doctor. We can fucking do it. Yeah, everyone looks at me and goes, brain surgeon, fucking genius.
I'm kind of thinking the same thing as you there, Ridley, except, when we go out and get into trouble, as we all want to do, I feel like it's more dangerous to bring that heat back on a higher population than a more remote place like the morgue.
I feel like if the funeral home is
the funeral home, yeah, they're all morgues.
A place that we're less likely to encounter or stumble upon people that might recognize us or might cause us harm in this city. It'll help us kind of disappear a little bit easier.
Listen, I'm not going to fight you two on this. I don't think it's a big thing. All I'm saying is, if we run into a funeral home outside of town, there's not really anything that we can like blend into or hide in. They just follow us out of town and, I don't know, shoot us.
I will say, just so you have the additional context, because of your deal with Di Santi, you can theoretically crash in any of these morgues. It's not that he'll only give you access to one of the three, but you can only make your home base on one of the three. So if that helps your considerations, if, for instance, you were downtown and you just need to disappear for a night, you could very well go to the hospital morgue and crash there. You just won't have all your stuff.
Oh, fuck it. The only thing I need is gloves. Sure, we'll make the fucking base out of town. I don't give a shit. We can sleep wherever we need it. Wow, this fucker's useful. I'm impressed by this fucking Di Santi. Good friend of Mike.
Well, he is certainly generous. I don't know why we're being extended this courtesy.
I'm sure we'll find out.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to assume that we're fucking useful and we're going to be more useful in the future, just like we're kind of assuming about him right now. You think we can get him to deliver blood out to the fucking funeral home?
Probably. But also,
probably
Emily can bring the snack room if we need it.
What? I'm sorry, what's the snack room?
The snack room? Oh, there's a closet at my old apartment that I kept all the people that attacked me.
Oh, yeah. Can we put a pin in that? I do want to circle back to about some kind of clandestine assault on your condo. You said they
Yeah.
were like in tactical gear.
They were, and they knew who and what I was, and they thought that I'd be easy to take out. So I don't know who they were.
Were they
If we
human
figure
or
out
were
where to
they,
live, I do want to talk about that some more.
were they vampires?
They were human.
All right, so how many do you got?
I did have 3. I might only have 1 left now.
Oh, okay. So we might need a blood delivery anyways, because that's not going to get us through, because we've got to feed us, and now 2 of us have to feed old hungry boy over here.
That would be a pro for staying in a morgue underneath a hospital. Blood's already on site.
Listen, you talked me into the funeral home. I don't know what you want me to do. You know what? I abstain from this vote. I'm fucking cool with it, no matter what we do.
No,
So the
no,
question
don't
is,
do that. All I'm like, this is good. You look, as an investigator, you are impartial. As more evidence comes in, that's how you change your opinion. All right. So I had not thought about blood delivery at the morgue. The hospital, that's a pro for staying at the hospital.
Okay, because then we could stay at the hospital, but we could use the funeral home as the place to take people we need to torture for information. Like old Cunty, who's apparently getting hauled around by Emily at this point for having shot at Iris.
Sure.
Okay, student or hospital? Do we want a young blood, perhaps old blood, mid-city blood?
Student would probably also have clearer hours of operation, whereas I find a hospital is running all the time. But, when class is out, not going to be too many people to bother us or notice us coming and going at night.
All right, so we stay at the student place. The fallback is the fancy old hospital, and we use the funeral home for torture and shadiness.
That sounds pretty ideal to me.
Fucking A. All right, let's go tell them we want all 3.
So there's some eye rolling from Di Santi, but he eventually grants your request. However, I know Ridley for you certainly, and I think Everett, because you've got your antenna up pretty high. The implication of like more favor from him equals much more favor from you later on is definitely pretty clear. But honestly, Ridley, there is a comfort in working with proper gangsters again. If I may quote Don Cheadle from Ocean's 11.
Yeah, and I think Ridley's thought on this is like,
I wish
well,
you would more often.
If we're the stronger one, then we don't have to do the favor later. And if we're not, he'd make us do it anyway. So there's really nothing to lose.
Exactly. Great. So with that, Jesus Christ. I was about to say a hospital car. A hospital car arrives It's called an ambulance in most circles, but I'm a classy boy, so a hospital car arrives, and takes
the
you.
Ambulincoln shows up.
Oh, damn, son, that's very good. So the Ambulincoln picks you up. It's very classy, and delivers you to the Jean Chrétien teaching hospital, named for former Prime Minister of Canada, Jean Chrétien. It is, we'll say it's probably attached to McGill. So a fairly central location. It's an in-town thing. You spent some time there previously during your Gordon Stevenson adventure, so you're somewhat familiar with the area. And as Everett indicated, it's always busy, and as much as people are constantly coming and going, but it's not as laser focused as the downtown hospital. Ryan, you seem like something has struck you.
I had a meta moment. It's just Ryan's brain outside of the character just being like, of course we moved in right next to Iris's stalker. Of course we did. We didn't even think about it. That's just where we moved. Let's continue.
I was going to have you guys
hell.
notice a poster as you walked through, but it's cool because you already got there from a meta lens. Yep. So you arrive at campus. You make your way inside. Each of you's been given a fob to get in and out of the hospital grounds. Di Santi assures you it's been rigged to open all the doors in the teaching hospital. So if you need to kind of fuck off anywhere else within there, you can. Unfortunately, medical staff at the sort of hospital side of this aren't necessarily university staff, so it doesn't give you free access to everywhere, but it'll definitely give you a good place to hide out in there. With that, you're basically granted there's like a staff lounge that has kind of like blackout curtains on it, like shutters, that is in the hospital area that has been cleared out for your use as kind of a general meeting area. Obviously, it's not as private or as large as your digs in the basement of TJ's, but it'll kind of do for now. And you're each assigned a different morgue slab, sort of bunk bed scenario to sleep in. Now, Iris, you are in the process of Emily's in the process of finding you a new place to live. So it's not to say that you'll necessarily be here every night with these two. I think it's probably going to be a similar arrangement to what you had at TJ's. But you still have one that is kind of reserved for your purposes. Now, because I'm a child at camp at heart, there are three, those classic, like, open the drawer, slide out the thing. They're stacked 3 high in kind of like long rows. Who's going to fight for the top bunk bed?
Ridley will just climb into the bottom bunk. Like, I don't even think it's a conversation. He likes being close to the floor. It speaks to him.
Yeah. And as much as you are a kid at camp, I feel like Everett is dogged and tired all the time. So I feel like he would just look to Iris and be like, do you got a preference there, Iris?
Ridley's stripping nude next to you guys because he obviously.
Oh God! And I'll take the top. I'll take the top bunk. I'd like to be as far away from Ridley as possible. Thanks.
Right. And with that, with a tremendous weight of the day on all three of you, you're actually able to get some fucking rest. So a day passes in Montreal. The news cycle is consumed with the plethora of terrorist attacks, much to Toronto's chagrin, completely overtaking and overwhelming the news reports around the terrorist attack in Toronto that kicked off our adventure. So yet another just fucking spit in the face from Montreal to Toronto. The rivalry continues. But the entire country is now on high alert. The fact that both Toronto and Montreal were hit in a relatively short span of time for a country that really doesn't see very much terrorist action on a large scale means that everyone from the government to local authorities is alarmed. There are calls for martial law. There is massive instability in the nation. In Montreal, not since the FLQ crisis of the 1960s has there been this level of kind of fear and paranoia on the streets. The wounds are a little too raw for rebuilding to begin. It's instead a process of counting the dead and determining just the extent to which this happened. A multitude of terrorist groups around the world immediately take credit, as they're like to do, being shitty coward people. And as a result, there's mass confusion and all the things, good and bad, you would expect to come of this. Inspiring stories of heroic actions, tragic tales of loved ones who made the ultimate sacrifice to save their families, as well as all of the unfortunate side effects of one of these events. Many phobias come back into stark contrast as people point fingers at other people and try and pass the blame. All in all, the city is in ruins and in a state of panic. Now, ultimately, from a kind of more objective, distant lens, buildings did collapse, which is, of course, massive. It was the evening, so at least it wasn't, middle of the day, busy, bustling town. Still a very high casualty count. But ultimately, the damage to Montreal itself is roughly negligible. There have been a bunch of buildings that have collapsed, but it's not like the city is in anarchy ruins. It's just in rough shape. You don't know any of this because you're asleep. But already there are task forces being formed. And of course, somewhere the Inquisition is grinning rather broadly because suddenly their mandate has been pretty much given carte blanche. Despite being the perpetrators of many of these events, the higher-ups and the general demand for government action have meant that a lot of agencies that normally are covered in red tape have no red tape. So things are getting rather hairy. It is another evening here as night falls on the streets of Montreal. Vigils are being held across the city in the wake of the disaster, as well as, of course, the kindred community following their first incredibly memorable Elysium, awaking to their new orders and their new purposes, and in some cases, their new homes. The three of you awake in your morgue slabs. Go ahead and roll me a rouse check, please, to wake up and face the night. Spooky.
Success.
Fail. It was a 1.
Fail. Hungy. Also a 1.
Both very hungy.
Hungy.
So the three of you awake to the sounds of a sort of a gentle, like once you start to move around a little bit, you hear like a light tapping on your just on one of the doors, I think, but it's enough that all three of you can hear. And from the other side, you hear a voice say, hello in there. I just wanted to inform you that as per our orders, the space has been cleared out and it's all yours. If you need anything, I'll just be around the corner at the security desk. But I've been told that you're very efficient people and that you will likely not have much use of me.
All right.
Thank you.
What's your name?
Oh, my name is Mason Reaney.
Thanks, Mason.
You're welcome. I'm the nighttime security guard here, so I've got your backs. Hail darkness, I guess. Is that okay? Goodbye. And then you hear like the jingle of keys as he walks away. Ridley, you're glad to hear this because it means that, like a cat with a bell on its collar, you'll always know where this man is.
That is good. Tom, I have a question about how well Ridley slept. Because we're coming off of, I know whenever I'm sick or injured, I don't sleep well, and this dude is fucked up. Also, he went to war and lost TJ last night, which is like a nightmare for Ridley, and I don't know the complications of touchstone loss.
Yeah,
or
we'll
anything,
deal
so
with
I
all
leave
that.
it to you. But
Yeah, we're definitely going to handle that now that you're awake. The interesting thing about the vampiric sleep, at least in my understanding of it in this system, is it's best not to think of it as like, I'm sleepy, I'm going to like drift off, or like, oh, I've got a lot on my mind, I can't sleep. It's more so that the exertion of the beast in the blood can actually only keep you running for so long. It's an incredibly powerful force, but it also requires a lot. Particularly the more. Well, actually, that's not true because all vamps have to drop during the day. So,
or is it like anesthetic kind of thing where you're just kind of out and then you wake up and there wasn't much in between?
I feel like it's the latter, particularly in my understanding. And again, like I may be wrong on this, but for our purposes, as I understand torpor, it's like when you're in a state of torpor, you're just out. Like there's no when the stake gets pulled and you wake back up, it's like holy shit! Like a minute ago I got staked, and now I'm back. That may not be true of all kindred, but I think in this case you were so injured that for your body to heal, your brain was just fucking off. Because all of you are 12th generation, I believe, vamps. So like your blood is more potent than
we're 13th.
13th, yeah. So you guys are on the tail end of essentially of
Legit vampires
bloodlines. Yeah, one step below you is like thin blood, daywalker type shit. In fact, a lot of the and this is specific to the 5th generation of Vampire the Masquerade. Part of the way that they reset the playing board was by saying like in all the older systems, all the Vampire Society was afraid of Genna, the apocalypse coming. And the biggest sign that it was on its way was that the blood was getting weaker and weaker and weaker. The further and further vamps got from the antediluvian progenitors, like the weaker and weaker the bloodline got, to the point that in 5th, technically most vampires start as thin bloods. Like the blood is so weak now that the vampires are actually afraid apocalypse is happening. So you guys are one step up from that, which is good for all of you because I wanted you to have powers and such. But you're not super vamps. You are like still on the very, very edge of what's capable. So all that to say, if you were a stronger vampire, you might be able to have more control of that. For you guys, this is as much as your body could take. So you awake. I think all of the feelings you're describing can absolutely be true, but unfortunately they're like, I very happily had this last night where I had a dream that I left a bunch of food out and it all turned, and I was like really upset about it because it was such a waste of money and resources and like food and everything else. And I woke up and realized, no, it was all in the fridge and everything's great. You have the opposite of that, where you wake up and for a moment it's just waking up somewhere, and then suddenly all of it hits you in a rush that TJ is gone, your touchstone is gone, and so on and so forth. And you're hungry. So the three of you wake up. Is there anything you do privately in your tomb slab before you come out to meet the others? If not, we'll jump ahead to when you're all in the lounge. But if there's anything you would do alone, I'd be curious to hear it.
I think Ridley just kicks out of his thing and goes. I don't think he's one for like solitary introspection. He's fucked up but active.
Cool.
Scrolling Instagram for far too long before I come out. I want to see what happened in the world.
Okay. We'll say that when everyone else went to bed, you like poked your head out and got the Wi-Fi password for the hospital. The Wi-Fi is not great inside a morgue bed, but it's good enough to load. So Iris, will say then that you have the best understanding of what's been going on. There are a lot of disaster porn selfies of beautiful people standing looking slightly tragic near like legitimate disaster while real people are helping to fix it. But it's definitely like you know what these sort of massive events do culturally, and there has been a culture shift due to this. Like this is a pretty big thing. Can you go ahead and roll me, please, we'll go with intelligence and Miles, I'd give you technology, investigation, or probably intelligence or investigation. It's been so long since we've rolled dice in this game. Jesus. Also, just because we haven't played it in a long time. That's also part of it.
4 successes.
Okay, great. So I will say for 4 successes, I will give you 2 questions that you can ask me with regards to kind of what you're trying to find from social media, be it Instagram or Twitter or what have you.
Okay, so I think majorly just understanding if they know who or what is actually going on.
Okay.
The big overarching thing. I think probably the who is the most important part. And also looking to see if anyone important to us has been involved or is coming up on the news.
Okay, those are good. 1 second, guys.
Heard that on Meg's mic. That's amazing.
Well, I muted mine. That's all I can give you.
It was quiet. It was subtle.
Yeah, I screwed a silencer into the back of my throat.
Yeah.
Honestly, that would be the equivalent. Like one of the James Bond ones where it's way quieter than even it would be in real life.
Yeah, where it just makes that little sound that makes video games feel very cool. As opposed to just loud but slightly less so, real.
Silencer just means you don't experience hearing loss when you fire your weapon. You don't need ear protection.
There's a great YouTube channel where the guy went through and remixed the sound to what silencers actually sound like onto scenes, and one of them was the John Wick little snipe over the thing.
Oh,
hilarious!
When they're walking through Grand Central or whatever.
And it's just booming gunshots.
Because they make it sound like it's an arrow thwap.
Yeah,
You know,
or
like a
little
little
chirps or whatever. Yeah.
No, you don't get hearing loss, and it's harder to hear based on echoes where it came from. That's all.
Yeah.
Or stealth assassin.
So
yeah. Right. So in terms of who people think are responsible, currently there's complete chaos on that regard, only because so many different groups claimed credit that it's just sorting through them. It's really what Hans Gruber was trying to do in Die Hard, where it's if I just list political dissidents in several different countries, everyone will just be like, wait, who are these guys? What do they actually want? And unfortunately, just looking at the way the news cycle runs right now, I can't fucking imagine what something like this would report like. It would be everything from this is a false flag, the government did it, to Al-Qaeda being it was us, we for sure did this one, to I don't know, the fucking Proud Boys, who knows? It's just so scattered. For you, Iris, looking at it from the lens of being a kindred and knowing about the masquerade, there's maybe a couple Reddit boards that are I'm pretty sure this is about vampires, but they're so far buried under all the QAnon boards that it doesn't seem to track. As usual, because I really firmly believe in the Men in Black approach to this sort of stuff. Some people fucking got it right and have been talking about it. There might actually be kindred breaking rules, whether they're anarchs or Sabbat, just fucking straight up posting about it. But again, it's not. Also, I don't think people think vampires and then think blowing up buildings. So there's just a lot of that. Unfortunately, in this particular instance, the government false flag thing isn't that far off, given that it was the Inquisition, but given that the Inquisition isn't one body necessarily in the way it used to be, there's just chaos.
Yeah, it's weird because the real culprit is the fake FBI.
Yeah.
Mind blown.
It's wild that you are a member of an organ, or I'm shrinking it down to an individual, but to be part of an organization that knows the truth of humanity has an adversary that is not human, and the way you go about fighting them is blowing up the buildings that the humans live and work in. It's bananas.
Yep. So all that to say, right now nothing, and I think again it's a bit of a relief that it isn't just like vampires walk among us.
Yeah.
News at 11. And in terms of anyone you know, now that you're aware of Dedric's kind of place in kindred society as a bit of a joke to like the people of Elysium, but also as seemingly kind of the new face of what a social media savvy kindred looks like, because in the older editions and like in the past of our World of Darkness, the Nosferatu ran ShrekNet, which unfortunately pre the movie Shrek made a lot more sense as like the guy who directed Nosferatu, but now it just seems like it's OgreNet and there's a reason it's gone. But they ran essentially an entire, think like almost a Reddit community just for vampires, where all of the secret information was stored. But like
very matrixy.
Yeah, well, and I mean, like for our points of reference as people who are relatively new to this, aside from Ryan, like the Matrix and that era of kind of cyberpunk and neuromancer and all that shit that came out at the same time really had a huge impact on kind of the late 90s vampire world. So the idea that the Nosferatu, who had traditionally been these information brokers, setting up a dark net just for them made a ton of sense. What 5th edition does, which is again a bold rad choice for resetting the board, is it got raided and a bunch of vamps died because everything was stored on servers.
Sure.
So there has been an edict from the Camarilla that like no more fucking ShrekNet assholes. It's gone, because all it took was flipping one vampire and suddenly like everyone was exposed.
They found out who Love to Suck 99 really was. They found him.
They did. Yeah.
It was Bruce Valanche, famed vampire.
So all that to say, Diderik fills that hole in a weird way, which is that he's speaking kind of clearly to vampire, like to kindred society, but in such a way that he just looks like a low-level influencer. Like he's actually a pretty massive influencer for kindred, but in the kind of kind world, it just sort of seems like he's a mid-level. You know, he's not the YouTube video you clicked on. He's one of the recommended you might
recommended.
Also. You know,
he's one of those Instagrammers with like 30,000 followers where you're like, good for you, but like that's not going to make you a living.
Yeah, and like club culture likes him a lot. But all that to say, he is active and is posting a lot of like in support of hero resources, kind of as you'd expect from someone like him. But Miles, based on your role, the subtext that Iris is seeing is kind of like, if you're a kindred and you're cut off, here's where you can get help. Like he seems to essentially be broadcasting very subtle messages to the kindred community about kind of where they can go for assistance. Otherwise, no one you recognize or notice in the feeds. There is a footnote about a beloved local bar burning down, and the loss of karaoke in the community will be strongly felt. The TJ Malone's Facebook page remains unupdated since he joined Facebook in 2009. As with all local shitty bars.
Yeah.
But you can see 3 people from his high school that never posted on his page before talking about how significant he was to them in that weird way strangers borrow grief sometimes that's infuriating.
Yeah, a bunch of 20-somethings just checked in at TJ Malone's and are posting there about how they never went, but it could have been their favorite bar.
They're probably holding pieces of charcoal from the burnt down building.
Yeah, honestly.
Finally poking him back, but you know what? It's too little too late. You should have done it back in 2009.
Yeah, his Farmville account is sadly untended. Was just shut down like last week. Anyway, so that's Iris. What you get from that. You also, of course, have a message from Emily. She has found 3 potential condos or living spaces for you, and she'd like you to give her a shout when you're up and about. All right, so Everett, is there anything you do in your slab, little slabby box?
I think after everything that went on last night, to be in just a little dark box with just sort of like the vaguest din of activity of like Ridley, you know, springing up and getting out of bed and getting on with his night. And maybe even hearing little snippets of audio from Instagram stories or anything like that above him. I think Everett just really kind of takes a moment to like appreciate the tranquility of just being in a dark box alone kind of thing. And I think some unwanted thoughts start to creep in again and just his mind threatens to spiral if he doesn't kind of get up and get out of there. And so I think after a little too long in there, you know, when like you hear sometimes people talk about sensory deprivation chambers, that like the experience is fine until it like goes wrong and you like
it's great until it really isn't.
Yeah, and someone has like, you know, like a panic attack or something like that. I think he's on the verge of that. He's like, I need to get out. he then like rolls himself out and hops down. Great.
So with that, the three of you, Ridley kind of pulling his pants on as he do. What's left of them anyway? I think you've been. We'll say that Di Santi had like a fresh set of clothes delivered for each of you. It's, I mean, Iris, it's not to your taste. It's very generic, but you get the sense that like, again, Di Santi is like, he's setting you up, but not. This isn't like a delightful, like, you know, bed and breakfast scenario where he's like, I just really want them taken care of. It's more like, oh, I noticed all of your clothes were trash. Here's some less trash. But it does look like some, you know, asshole low on the chain had to like go to Walmart and just buy you off the rack jeans and like shirts or something, just enough to get you started.
Weirdly, Ridley is the best dressed he's ever been. Like, I feel like he's just in like a nice polo. Like, he just looks like a relatively pleasant but weird dad. And I would say there's probably, let's say there's like a white lab coat somewhere nearby, and Ridley just puts it on. So for action figure's sake, you're now seeing Dr. Ridley.
I have a feeling it's a sliding scale for each of us, where the plainness of the clothes is like fantastic for Ridley, like exactly what Everett would have bought for himself if he had like the choice, and terrible for Iris. Like each of us has like 1 point on the scale.
Yeah,
of, like,
Iris,
where we like these clothes.
Given that we've been talking like polo and jeans, what do you think Di Santi's people got you?
Oh, it's probably like a vintage rocker tee and jeans.
Okay, what's the band? Is it like, we're talking like, and it kills me to say this. We're talking like Nirvana, quote, quote, vintage? We're talking like Guns N' Roses? Like, what do you think?
Or is this like a Spice World tour where it's
like
technically vintage but weird?
Or like the Beatles?
I don't know why, but I was going to say it's like, it's something really stupid and not like adult at all. So I was going to say like it's a Wiggles tour t-shirt.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
I like this a lot. Yeah. They couldn't figure out what your size might be, so they just went with like a large children's shirt. We're like, fucking hopefully.
Do you know what? I maybe we should just make it all band shirts. Ridley's will be My Chemical Romance, which I think doesn't quite match him, but if he listened to the music, he'd be cool with it.
Yeah. Everett, what band t-shirt did you get?
I know my brain is brushing now for the funny thing. I think it's just I think it's just a Metallica shirt. It's just Master of Puppets. It's just the hands over the gravestones. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a moment of like all the people you've accidentally killed and watched die, and it's like gravestones. Oh.
Yeah. And if it is a band t-shirt, then I think that slides Everett a little farther down to where Iris is on the happiness with outfit scale.
Yeah, totally fair. Totally fair.
I don't think any of us are happy with it. I just think it suits us to varying degrees.
Yeah, totally. Great. So having awoken with hunger, the beast starting to pound within your blood, Iris, Ridley, and Everett, you make your way into the lounge. This is one of those kind of like, I have to assume that a morgue lounge is still just a workplace lounge, but also, I don't know, from my own kind of like thoughts with this sort of stuff, I feel like it's got to have a bit of quirk to it. just in as much as it's a pretty grim space, so you might need some like kind of strange levity to it. So what I'd like from each of you is one unique detail, and it doesn't need to be something like, it's not like, oh wow, there's like a wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube man, but just like, sometimes you walk into particularly like a faculty lounge and there's just like weird quirks about it. So what from each of you, what's one weird interesting detail in this lounge?
I think there's like posters and things on the wall that are either like Far Side style or like really bad puns about bone saws and things like that.
I love the Far Side thing. Let's just make it a straight up Jack Astor situation where it's just like a bunch of framed Far Side comics. Okay, I like that a lot. So we've got Far Side comics and puns.
Okay. I want to mix the student and the hospital style thing. So one wall is just a big kind of whiteboard with the markers that you can write on it, which is like, oh, they did a good job on making it a school. But all the chairs are that weird hospital chair thing where it's like a blue, uncomfortable fabric padded backrest and like down, but they're a little too tight and the wood on the sides is thin and every corner is rounded. So like there's no way to kind of comfortably settle in the chairs or couches.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, so all the furniture is just slightly off.
One person has brought a desk lamp from home, but it's one of those like antique roadshow, like this thing has a whole oeuvre. It is a ceramic German Shepherd, like cresting a cliffside. And like up through the German Shepherd's head is where like the rest of the lamp goes, and like a too big lampshade. Like it's not like a proper desk lamp. It is just one like decorative like conversation piece lamp that someone has brought from their home or their grandparents' home or something like that, and they put it on their desk.
Okay, I love that. I love that the most. Great. So we've got a sense of this place. I think we'll say for the purposes, particularly of the news and stuff, there are sort of like three computer terminals set up that are that classic, like not the worst, but by no means the best university setup. So just like a vague like Acer box with like those flat screens that are nice-ish, but again, not great. There's an old-ish flat screen TV mounted on one of the walls. There is inexplicably a Wii U plugged into it with a fine layer of dust on it. But it does have cable access, just particularly for the news and the like. There's a small kitchenette that none of you need, but it's always nice to know it's there. And you can see there's a small locker room and shower room kind of off one door, as well as what looks to be like a small crash space. So it's essentially a glorified closet with a couple of cots, just for folks who are working long hours. So having established yourselves now in the lounge, the three of you kind of get settled, and it's time to talk about what the fuck happened at TJ Malone's. The three of you have been through a lot over the past, not just last night, over the past little while, but last night in particular went from, fun evening to holy shit, oh God, burning, friends are dead, what the fuck, town is in rubble. And though you've certainly had some side chats about it and about the nature of Everett and secrets in the bathroom of the Centaur Theater during Elysium, now is the first chance that the three of you have to actually kind of deal with everything that has gone down. Before we even get to chatting about it, there is some logistical stuff that we should probably touch on that Ryan, you brought up last episode as well. You've lost a touchstone, which is a major event in a kindred's life, as all of you know, as we've alluded to. A large part of Vampire is the gradual degradation of your humanity as the beast becomes more and more a part of you. Everett has already experienced this a couple times from various means, but Ridley, this is your first big one. So when you lose a touchstone, And I'll ask you. You can kind of determine this less in terms of what is objectively true and more what Ridley believes to be true. You take stains from losing a touchstone, which of course risk your humanity. If for your touchstone being destroyed, you get 2 stains. However, if a touchstone was destroyed by your actions, you get 3. Would Ridley believe that TJ died due to his actions?
No. I think if Ryan was actually the character, I would, but I think Ridley does not. I think Ridley would draw the line on like the Inquisition broke the fucking rules, so he would blame them pretty emphatically.
Gotcha. All right. So that is 2.
2 stain. Okay, and how do we resolve stain again, Tom? Based on like how bad you feel or something at the end of an adventure, but I feel like this is end of one, beginning of another, maybe.
Yes, it absolutely is. So we can definitely take some time to.
I think Tyler's got some stain carried over from his Everett adventures as well.
I'm approaching the point where I need to ask, what happens when you run out of humanity to put one line through? Do you just go back to the top and start just like completely blacking out blocks of humanity?
This will be the time where we could solve it, because you end up rolling relative to it. I can't remember the exact rules, but Tom will find it. It will take longer than Tom wants because there is absolutely no index, and the vampire book
except Tommy opened it to these pages in advance, knowing this would be a conversation we're having.
Tommy. See, he's better than the book.
Whoop whoop. All it took me was 48 episodes to learn my lesson.
Technically, this is episode 58.
Thanks, Ryan.
I learned my lesson a few episodes ago. I just didn't tell anybody. Okay. Cool. Remorse. So a character with any stains marked on their humanity track at the end of a session makes a remorse test. We're counting this as both the end of and beginning of a session, so you can do all this shit here.
Cool.
Roll a number of dice equal to the unmarked, unfilled dots on your humanity tracker. For instance, if you have humanity 6 and 2 stains, you'd roll 2 dice. Because
would you roll 4 dice or 2?
No. So on your sheets, sorry, this is where shit gets confusing. On your sheets, you'll notice that your humanity tracker is a total of 10.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So in the case that they're giving, which is confusing here, they've got 6 blocked off.
Oh, okay.
Which is their humanity rating. So that's like how human you are, is your like blacked out boxes. Stains are the lines through things. So basically, here's where it goes down. So you basically roll the amount of like unchecked little circles or little boxes you've got. If you don't have those, we'll get to that in a second with degradation. But essentially, the way remorse works, if you feel like your character, any characters with that that still have humanity, just automatically roll this, whether or not you're actively remorseful about it. It's in the same way that this game is mostly geared towards you losing humanity. It also wants to counterbalance that by making sure your humanity is pulling on you from the other side, so you don't get to just become a super god overnight, if that makes sense. So if all of you could please roll me a check with however many
unstained humanity we have?
Yeah, blank humanity boxes you've got. And this is only if you have stains. If you have no stains, you don't need to do it. I don't know if Iris has stains right now, so that's why I ask.
I think I have 1.
Oh, okay, great. So go ahead and roll as well, please.
So I just roll 1?
Yeah. What? You have
roll
1 stain, or you have 1 unstained humanity box?
No, I have 1 stain.
Okay,
so you're gonna roll a few dice.
Yeah, so look at how many blank boxes you've got that aren't fully filled in or with a line through them.
Mm-hmm.
That's how many dice you'll roll. So in your case, that would probably be 3, 4.
I mean,
4.
If you had humanity, if you had 5 humanity and 1 stain, then you would have 4 remaining.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. So you get to roll 4. Ryan, how many are you rolling?
I rolled 5.
You're going to roll 5. And Tyler, how many have you got?
I'm rolling 3.
3.
So what does success or failure mean, Tom, now that we're all staring humanity in the face?
And sorry, just before we get to that, Ryan, you're rolling, you have 5.
I had 7 humanity total.
Yeah.
I added 2 stain, so
Yeah.
I rolled 5 dice.
No, I'm sorry. To be clear, it's the clean boxes are the ones we're rolling. So if you had run those numbers by me again.
Okay, I had 10 boxes when we started the game. They became 9 because I was a vampire, and they became 8 because I'm one of the alley feeders. Right. Then I lost to humanity for doing shitty things over the course of the game. So I had 7 clear boxes, stained 2 of them, so I had 5 dice left.
Okay, I got you. Great, that makes sense. Sorry, I was just confused about the math. So all of you've rolled. All you need is 1 success. Did any of you get 1 success?
I got a success.
Nope.
Oh shit.
All right. So Miles, this actually makes perfect sense with your character. The beast is 1. So remove all your stain, but also lose 1 point of humanity. For those of you who passed, good news, you get to wipe the slate clean. And I'll be curious to hear kind of what that looks like. I feel like for Everett, that's just he woke up today. For Ridley, I'll be curious to hear kind of how you imagine that playing out. Now here, to Tyler, you asked a very good question earlier. If a character accumulates more stains than they have empty boxes on their humanity track, they become impaired, resulting in a 2 dice penalty to all pools in this case, as they're overcome with regret. In addition, they take 1 aggravated point of willpower damage for each stain that could not fit in the open boxes. In this state, the character is incapable of further intentional tenant violations and are forced to commit one. Must test for terror or frenzy at difficulty 4. So that basically means like you're so remorseful you couldn't possibly do something that would act against your own interests.
Okay.
And the willpower thing can knock you out completely because that's social damage, right? Like you could essentially destroy your own mind and knock yourself into like torpor shit.
You can also choose at any point if you are in a degeneration state to just burn a humanity point and recover. So Miles, what humanity are you at now? How many black boxes do you have?
So do I X out one of the black boxes or one of the white boxes?
You will,
because I took a mark off of one of the white ones, and now I have 5 dark, 5 white. And then to take one off,
you're going to drop one of the dark. So the dark weirdly represents like how human you still are. So now you're at humanity 4.
Yeah.
This tracks pretty perfectly with your current journey, Miles. Humanity 4 is described as, hey, some people gotta die. You've finally begun, even accepted your inevitable slide into moral sloth and self-indulgence. Killing is more than fine. Ask the elders. They've been around long enough to see whole genocides ignored. Destruction, theft, injury, those are all tools, not taboos. Physical changes become quite evident as ashen pallor shades come firmly into corpse-like shades of flesh. So here's
love it.
Yeah. So here's an interesting thing. You suffer a 2 dice penalty on rolls to interact with humans, which I think will mitigate with some of your abilities. And you can no longer keep food and drink down, even with the blush of life. So no more, I'm going to sip these beverages just because.
Tom, if she uses the blush of life, which is a rouse check to try to like flush your body and look human, is that possible? Or has she gone so far that she can't look people anymore?
I think she still can. I think the difference we're talking about here is at humanity 5, without the blush of life, you might just look kind of ill, but still vaguely human. Now you're really getting into that, like, and they say corpse-like, but I think the better way to think of it is that kind of ethereal, like, you know,
alabaster shine kind of thing.
Yeah, like certain movies really just do lean into the fact that like a vampire shows up and you're like, it's that fucking guy. Like it's more of that where there's just something unearthly and uncomfortable about it.
So to fake human, she has to just keep burning blood.
Or
be spooky,
or just commit to being a weirdo. And I mean, honestly, the interesting piece for this, Iris, and this is something perhaps you can, Miles, you as a player can think about, is since you're an artist, you can probably get away with this if you like alter your look. Like there's ways to kind of pass with this. I'm thinking of like early Amy, whatever was it? It wasn't Lee, but like the Evanescence chick and like a few other people.
Lee.
Amy Lee, great. Okay, I was right. We just also know an Amy Lee, so I got very confused. Yeah. There are ways I think you could probably get around this. It just means you'd have to start presenting yourself in a very different way. Alternatively, you can just burn blood for the blush of life.
Yeah.
And because you have a herd, it's not the worst thing.
Yeah, so your new look will work for you in a nightclub, but it won't help you at the bank. You know, just like most artists.
Yeah. And Miles, one thing to consider with the disadvantage on you're rolling so many dice that a 2 dice penalty doesn't really change it that much. But another way to think of this is less, I can't interact with humans anymore, and more so that the way you interact with humans is going to dramatically shift. Where before, up till now, you've pretty much been kind of interacting with humans the way you would have in your mortal life. Now I think you're starting to get into like what Galadriel was afraid of, where it's kind of like, I am immortal, I'm kind of above this, so you can agree with me, or my buddy here will rip your head off, and that's kind of fine. So it's basically what you've been doing anyway, just now there's a dice penalty. Huzzah!
Iris done. Love me and despair.
Yeah, honestly. All right, so Ryan, you are at 5? Is that correct?
No, I was at 7. I had 2 stain, but I did have a success, so my stain goes away. So my humanity remains at 7. So I'm a little spooky looking, but I'm not fully a monster
Okay,
yet.
so just because it's been a long time since we've touched on these, I'm just going to read them all out.
Great.
So for 7, most human beings have humanity scores of 7 or so. Vampires at this level of humanity can usually manage to pass for mortals. Subscribe to societal norms more, but that's not entirely true for you. You feel some connection to other beings, even human beings, though the more than a little selfishness shines through.
Yeah, Tom, if we would, because I think what we'd kind of talked about previously, and it's worth flagging, because Ridley comes from a different world than most normal people to begin with. I think when we look at the idea of him being cool with killing people, we'll probably look, if we want to consider that to be his willingness to just kill anyone. Because he's sort of like, these people are all people who've agreed that they can get murdered, and these people haven't. And if we play with that line, I think we can do the same humanity journey, but start at gangster instead of starting at...
Sure, because I feel like you actually kind of fall into Humanity 6, which is like, hey, people die, stuff breaks. Which is, I think I think maybe the way to think of this is more so that losing, and this actually does, again, track with the way you've been playing him. It's more so that, like, if Bear Boys die, you're actually upset about it. Whereas a few points of humanity from now, it'll be like, okay, we'll just get more Bear Boys. Just hire more people. I don't care. Whereas right now, it's still like, no, we have to keep as many of them alive as we can. So I think this all melds nicely.
Would you rather I be at 6 than 7 then? It's easy enough to make the change.
No. I think it's fine for 7. You're just like, you started as a slightly more murdery guy. And what's interesting to me is I'm more curious to see how your degradation plays out in your crew, or like the Nathan Dinkledorffs of the world, as you start to lose your humanity. That to me is more interesting, because you're already at a point of like, stuff breaks and people die, but there's still that like, oh, but my people survive, you know? And that's the piece that I think I'll be interested to see slip away over time. Tyler, what are you at?
I have remained at 7 humanity.
7. Wow. All right. So Iris is a monster, and 2 of you are doing okay. This is something that we should actually have been rolling at the end of every session. And of course, we're going to treat sessions not as recording sessions, but as little narrative arcs.
Yeah.
So I will start tracking that a little bit more.
Yeah, and we can also debate, Tom, because there's some stuff which is like killing people is supposed to give stains and shit. So it's kind of like you can kind of, I think, throw it out more often if you want to, because I know there are weird specifications around like murder and shit that we do a bunch of. And I don't know, like there's also like, would it stain Ridley? No, but might it stain other people? I don't know. What's the version of a Ridley stain? Like, feel free to throw those at us whenever you want.
Yeah. I've been trying to, because I mean, in theory, a lot of the stains are theoretically around like humanity shifts should be around massive changes.
Yeah. That makes sense to me. I'm not saying you're doing it wrong. I just wanted to throw it out.
Oh, I'm 100% doing it wrong. But yeah. Okay. I think we will likely be playing with this a bit more now that we're kind of fully up and running. I've just been trying to wrap my head around a lot of different rule sets, and this one didn't seem as important, but now I'm seeing that like the possibilities for decline are pretty rad. So who knows? But we'll try and stick them to 2 things. Everett, in terms of your humanity, I'm going to just do some retroactive adjustment, I think, based on things we've done. Do you think... I feel like you would have lost a point of humanity when you turned Jocelyn. I think that was a pretty big violation of what you believe in.
Yeah.
So if you could go ahead and lose 1 for that. which puts you into again that territory I was describing earlier, which is like you're still mostly human, but like things break and people die and like bad stuff happens, which I think is kind of what your Dark Night of the Soul outside the theater was sort of about, which is like.
I'll have to wait for more people to die for me to kind of see the clearer picture.
Yeah, exactly. So that sounds right to me. Ryan, I feel like 6 does sound better for Ridley. Would you agree?
I'm fine with it. Yeah, I don't think there's. I don't have a strong argument against it. I think there's logic for it. The only thing I do, if we were probably sitting at 7, is it would be more of a quest to destroy the Inquisition, whereas 6 is probably that'd be the step for him to be more focused on the mission for the Coterie. And I don't object to either plot. But where do you think that?
Have you done anything that would be truly heinous to Ridley? I don't think you have at this point.
Not really. He's fucked other people up. Like he's tried to do stuff for other people, but we dealt with a bunch of stain around like turning Harvey and stuff like that because that felt icky to him. But
there was the grocery store attack where you succumbed to hunger and attacked an innocent person. But I think you also like in your own mind justified it as like, they were probably bad or something like that.
Yeah, because we went through the die rolls again. Okay. So I mean, I'm fine with a 6 as well. If you'd rather go there, Tom, it's up to you.
Yeah, go ahead and roll me a. I feel like you should be at 6.
Great, let's just do 6.
Yeah. Sorry, this is a like minor rules retconning, but I feel like 6 is kind of where you would have started the whole game, really.
Ridley's a tricky one because we were like, he has a code, but where were we? And honestly, Ridley's not a character that's actually flawlessly designed to be put into this system, so we'd be kind of fudging it and finding it
for sure. And also the main difference I think for me is like Everett is going to feel the loss of his humanity very intensely. Iris is just going to feel herself coming into her power in a way that she likely won't associate with a loss of humanity until it's far too late.
Ridley's physicality is starting to match his mindset. Realistically,
that's it. Is he doesn't. This isn't that different from his normal mode of operation. He's just a vampire now. And so instead, weirdly, for the Ridley lens, the loss of humanity has less to do with being a vampire and more to do with being a career gangster, which is, I think, also appropriate. Great. So this has been Rules Chat live on air. I've been your host, Tom McGee. Join us next week where we'll do another session 0 where we try and find things in the rule book. Remember that? That seems like 10 years ago. Cool. Okay. So that brings us up to speed on where everyone's at. In terms of the remorse guys, since you did just lose a point of humanity each, I don't think we need to belabor that. Also, Everett, I think your journey's been pretty clear, and Ridley, I think we know where you're at. But
not
this
my
is
fault. Inquisition's fault. Fuck the Inquisition. Fuck her.
Yeah. So this is the first chance for the 3 of you to catch up. I have some major beats I want to make sure we touch on, but I'm also happy to let you guys run the show for a little bit. So the 3 of you settle into these chairs. There's 2 couches. There's these uncomfortable chairs. The couches are also vaguely uncomfortable in that like IKEA couch that isn't the expensive good ones way. Where are all of you situated? And what would you want to ask each other about or talk about? Doesn't even need to be questions. It could just be like, this is a thing we need to discuss. Go.
Ridley will do what Ryan did when he was really hungover but had to do corporate meetings, which is he's pulled a chair up next to the whiteboard and has a marker, but he is sitting in it instead of standing up to put anything on the board.
Okay.
Everett is leaning in the doorway, arms crossed.
Iris is probably lounging on 2 chairs, one for her feet.
Yeah, it is the least comfortable lounge, but it is a lounge, damn it.
Yeah.
The fucking best I can do in here.
Yeah. I get it. It's like a hotel bathtub that's like kind of too small, but damn it, it's a bathtub, so gonna use it. Okay, great. So the 3 of you are around. Can you all please roll me just a pure, let's say, either wits, resolve, or composure. You can pick one of the 3, and I want just a pure roll based on that attribute.
I've got 1 success based on resolve.
Okay. And obviously include hunger dice if you have them.
Yeah.
3 successes with wits.
Okay.
1 success with composure.
Okay. So Everett, having won the roll-off, you have the option of kind of presenting the first, of leading the conversation. You're the first one to speak up, unless you feel like Everett is more curious in what they have to say, in which case you can opt not to. If that is the case, I would ask you to pick who goes first.
I think Everett would start with the question of what happened at TJ Malone's, right? I think he would start with that, but then kind of start to fill in some blanks of like his experience. I think he would start by saying, so where were we all last night when TJ's was under siege? I woke up in the office and already I heard there was some kind of a terrible commotion on the other side of the door. When I opened it up, it was a full-on war zone. What happened?
All right, so full disclosure, some of the bear boys went out to get something to eat because we have multiple vampires living in a bar. And it turns out one of the fucking dumb ones grabbed a man out of a van and thought, this is a great man to eat. And it turned out that man was actually working for the police, supervising some criminals. So he appears to have interrupted a sting, at which point the whole place exploded and the FBI came in. So this may have been an oopsie shit random chance in that the Inquisition either was already looking for us and this was an excuse because they led a fucking charge, or General Bear Boy fuck up, train wreck joined by Inquisition. But they were in the first wave, so I don't know what the fuck's going on.
All right, so that explains TJ's coming under attack. Iris, you were attacked by some kind of tactical unit hauling Drac, injecting you?
Yeah. Iggy called and said he needed to talk to me, so I let him come to the apartment, and he threw Drac in my face and then ran. And these military guys just kind of tried to store me, but turns out Drac does weird things to me, so I kind of turned into a demon monster and did my thing.
Do you have any idea why they would do that to you? Why your brother would do that to you, and why these soldiers would come in and attack you?
No, but I intend to find out.
Well, yes, I do too. As for the Bear Boys, this ain't the first time they've gone out and gotten people with potentially bad consequences. I seem to remember them pulling a cop off of some kind of a construction site or something like that in broad daylight. Now, this might have been also part of that coming home to roost, so to speak. You know,
I mean, it might have been, but from what they said, the cop, we talked to him, he wasn't fucking even looking at us. It was just a dumb boy fucking lifting a random man out of a van who seemed distracted because he was watching criminals. It was plain clothes. It was a fuck up. The boy who did it, I mean, I don't fucking know who's still alive, but basically the Bear Boys were the ones who basically got us cover and cleaned out fucking everyone around and kind of went to war with the police. So they've gone underground. We won't have access to any sort of gangster help for a while, but they'll be in touch.
They certainly helped me get out of there as well. I would say, I'm not saying they're not useful. I'm not saying they're not talented, but I think when situation requires a softer touch, Bear Boys might not be top of our list anymore.
Yeah, well, luckily we're in an hospital now, so if we need fucking blood, we can try to figure out something nearby instead of me having to send them out into the streets.
I agree with that as well, but coming back to the attack on TJ Malone's, we were attacked, a number of other coteries were attacked, so I don't think it was just happenstance. I don't think it was a coincidence. And
okay,
it was Inquisition, after all.
That's what I'm saying. But I don't know if the Inquisition knew we were there, or if the Inquisition heard what happened and then fucking came over. Ultimately, it doesn't fucking matter. We fucking murdered them all. Fuck them. But
did the FBI, the first responders, you know, The Inquisition might have shown up later, so let's talk about the first responders. Did they have any kind of anti-vampire weaponry or tech?
Yeah, they had fucking light grenades and shit. I think the FBI is the fucking Inquisition because the FBI can't fucking operate in Canada. You just use the fucking Canadian cops, the fucking Mounties who ride, I don't know, the moose and fucking wander around going, oh, I'm Dudley Do-Right, who gives a shit? They're the ones who can fucking do it here. The FBI does it fucking cross national lines. It's fucking breach of everything.
That's true.
I'm thinking they're all fucking Inquisition.
It is worth pointing out, just as you will recall, Ridley, that there were CSIS jackets in there too, but your thesis is exactly correct. The FBI should not have been there. It doesn't really make sense.
Even as far as cover goes, it doesn't make sense.
No, it's fucking dumb. That's how you know it's the fucking Inquisition.
No, I mean, you know, we can say what we want about them, but coordinated attacks, a lot of people, a lot of vampires hurt, a lot of innocent people hurt. They're still very dangerous, and obviously they have a large and sophisticated infrastructure to operate within.
All right, so where are you going with this?
I'm saying we need to be more careful because something led them to us. I don't know if it was the Bear Boys. I don't know if it was us, but they knew where to hit us.
Okay, I like your idea about lying low and being more careful. At the same time, we do have to eventually defeat Montreal's nastiest biker gang full of vampires and take over their strip club.
Well, the fortunate thing about that is the orphans, I think.
Yep, the orphans.
The orphans are already a pretty rough and tumble bunch, so it'd be less conspicuous if some kind of brawl erupted that wiped them out at their club. You know, not the same as blowing up a hospital or an office building.
Yeah, no, it's not like we're doing the end of fucking Fight Club. There's options. So it seems like we've kind of got three major things we need to do, if you don't mind me saying. And he just draws a gravestone and scribbles lines on it where the writing is. And then he just puts an X over it. And he's like, we don't want to die. And then he draws.
You're going to erase that after, right?
It's a whiteboard. You can fucking put wherever you want.
No, I know, but are you going to take it off? We can't have other people in this medical office.
No, it's our fucking place. They locked this down for us. That's why we got fucking Mason Reaney. Even then, look, and he just like wipes a thumb over it, and a bunch of the marking disappears. He's like, that's what the boards are for.
Great, perfect. I want that to happen at the end of this discussion.
Okay, you can do it. I fucking can't. And he just like draws a bit like a little house that's a square, and then he draws like a stick figure with boobs with an arrow to the house. And he's like, we got to take over this strip club. And then he just draws like that weird cross thing that you see on Red Cross trucks. And he's like, we need to heal up and put our shit back together, right?
Yeah. Why aren't you just listing these things?
I'm listing them. Look, there's a fucking gravestone. There's this fucking thing. And there's this fucking thing.
Everett looks to Iris like, can you believe this? Not realizing that Iris knows why he's doing it.
Oh, wait, do you not fucking know? I can't fucking read. I can't fucking write. I know numbers and fucking pictures. That's why this bullshit's here. If I let you draw it on a board, you write words I can't fucking read, and then I don't know what's going on. Side note, I will kick your fucking ass at Pictionary. You fucking wait.
Wait, how would you'd have to read a card to draw the picture?
No, someone reads it to me. You don't have to be a piece of shit about this. It's fucking supporting my disability. I'm not good at fucking reading because I don't fucking know how to do it.
Everett has like no idea how to respond to this, given that he just revealed the other night that he drinks vampire blood. So like he no longer has a way to like calibrate a response. So he just shuts up. He's just quiet and he looks at you being like, okay.
Okay, great. So look at me. I'm a fucking crypt keeper. I'm a fucking train wreck. I can tell you I need blood because I'm hungry as shit. And every time I move, this fucking weird monster body just undoes the fucking healing it's doing. So I'm going to be fucking laid up for like 2 weeks and someone's going to have to give me shitloads of blood that I can't fucking get. I'm going to need a nurse. Iris, you're terrifying. Everett, congratulations, you're hired. You're going to have to keep me fucking just resting and blooded for like a good 2 weeks. We need to lie low anyways because fucking everything exploded. So it's going to be a shit fest. Now it's not the time to storm a strip club with fucking guns.
I agree with that. Yeah, I was thinking we need to maybe grab one of the orphans and interrogate him. Give us a better idea of what the layout is, how many people to expect, that kind of thing.
I mean, you had
that's-
one for a while.
I mean, that's possible.
Yeah.
Martha.
Oh, right.
Yeah, well, we had
Oh,
Martha.
we were even
and
going to do it with her in the trunk. Yeah.
She wasn't that fucking useful. Here's the thing. If we want to talk about how to take down the fucking orphans, now is the time for us to take some downtime, do some fucking research. You can investigate. And he points to Everett. And he's like, I can make a fucking plan. And Iris, one thing that a bunch of gangs get into, which is a shit idea, is going, we've got two enemies. Let's focus entirely on one so the other one can shiv us in the fucking balls. I'm thinking you and Emily, we got to figure out what the fuck's going on with Iggy and his fucking Drac. Because if that explodes, the whole fucking city goes to shit. So we got to figure it out, and we got to do this. Because I'm like, we can do some scouting. I'll tell you the traditional ways to break down a fucking gang. A, you start attacking a couple of people in the streets and making them disappear. The nice thing with the orphans is we shiv a couple of people. If the fucking vampires, they turn to dust, fuck it, there's no body disposal. If the fucking people, I got friends in the construction, they just disappear. So there's no murders, there's no fights. It's literally like catch them coming out of a bar, have a nice fucking night, you're in an hole. Do that, they get scared, they all fucking hang out in the clubhouse. Then you go around, fuck up some businesses until they need to send people out. Then you either go to war with people out there, kill them when they're there, and then attack because their numbers are down, or they send the old group to go deal with something, and you just take over the own base while they're out. And when they come back, they got to fight through their own defenses. That's what I'd suggest from the business perspective. But that requires research. We got to know who the fuck's doing what's around, all that shit.
All right. So we're circling two major ideas. Disrupting orphan operations and abducting an orphan off the streets of the biker gang, not just like, Annie, to try and get more information. The secondary objective, or the secondary sort of concern being what's going on with Drac and Iggy. Miles, what would be on Iris's mind at this meeting?
I think Iggy's top priority. I need to sort that shit out because if he's going to if people are going to keep coming after me and he's going to keep being a problem, then it has to be cut out quicker rather than later.
Okay, great. So
Iris,
then...
I was going to say, Iris, I've got a question for you about this fucking demon that you can turn into. Like, do we need to find a priest or a rabbi or someone for you to fucking talk to so we could try to find out about demon rules? Because
I don't think so. It's been pretty helpful.
also, it's like a good one.
It seems to be. It's let me kill people that are trying to kill me.
Have you ever heard the drug phrase, you get the first one free?
I don't know. I seem to be able to talk to and bargain with and control this one, so I don't know.
Yeah, that's how they, if there's shitty dealers, I don't do fucking drugs, but if you were to try to, I don't know, sell heroin to like teenagers, you say, you get to have this one. Do you know what? You can have this one. We'll negotiate on the next price. I don't know. Have a nice night. They go, this is the best fucking thing in the world. I've never felt so fucking good. That guy's so nice. It's going to be great. And you go back and the next one, he's like, hey, give me like £5. It's fine. And you do that. And then about 3 or 4 in, you're fucking jonesing somewhere. And he's like, go hold up a store or go fuck yourself. And now you're an heroin addict.
Well, I guess it's kind of up to you guys to monitor it then, right? Because
oh, that's not how addiction works. I mean, if you want to keep going down the road, I support you and you do what you got to do. I just wanted to let you know that there might be a red flag in this somewhere that you should be considering.
Well, I'll keep an eye on it.
I like it.
Sorry, I thought you were being hyperbolic when you said demon. Are you talking about like a real kind of Bible demon?
12 feet tall, fucking blades for fingers, a giant, willowy, terrifying killing machine.
I don't know. It was just kind of a voice in my head. And then, you saw what I looked like. I don't know what I looked like.
I did not see
No,
what you
Everett
looked
wasn't
like.
there. That's why he
No,
was
that's what I'm talking about you, Ridley.
Yeah.
You know what I looked like.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, giant, 12 feet tall, fucking long, willowy blades for fingers, terrifying, dead eyes.
You full on transformed.
She threw up black goo into someone's mouth and they fucking died.
All right. I don't know if the heroin metaphor is accurate enough anymore.
I don't know, because I will say, if I could do what she did under those circumstances, I'd be like, this is fucking good.
See? That's what I'm talking about.
Why? Do you know why this happened? Like, that's
assume
what
it's
Drac does to some vampires?
It might just be what
Liquid
Drac
demon?
is. I don't know. Might just be the type of vampire I am. I don't know.
That doesn't make sense to me, because if they had Drac, so they clearly know what fucking Drac was. And I know Drac was in a fucking nightclub when everybody went fucking mental and started eating each other, because I had a bunch of vials. So I'm thinking they may have tried to even make you go, feral and just be like, ah, and then they fucking pin you down because you won't know how to fight. Or it's some kind of fucking, maybe turns people into monsters and it's like vampire roofies and you just go to fucking sleep. But I don't think they turn you into a killing machine.
We had established a while ago that I believe in kind of the investigation you were doing post nightclub that Drac seems to operate almost like, bath salts is probably the easiest metaphor, but it's like almost like a steroid high. Like it just jacks up vamps.
That got said by Jocelyn. So Everett and I know that, but Iris doesn't. So we relay that as a thing we have heard.
Yeah.
Great.
Iris, that night at the club, you were up there on the altar.
Yeah.
When we were fighting the, I can't remember his name, the
Satin Prince.
Satin Prince. When we fought the Satin Prince, and he was in the middle of some sort of ritual, and he was controlling people. Did anything happen to you when you were up there, when we interrupted that ritual?
Oh, fuck, it was grabbing her. Is this the same demon? And he just like squiggles what he thinks is a question mark, but it just looks like his hand doing a really bad EKG.
Yeah, it's possible that I got some like power transfer or something like that. I don't understand why you guys think this is a bad thing. I literally went from weakling, unable to do anything wrong, like anything to help, to being able to X-Men badass.
Oh, I'm not saying it's fucking bad. I'm saying it's fucking useful. All I'm saying is right now it sounds too good to be true. And the only way something is too good to be true if it's someone's about to get fucked. So just keep an eye on it. We trust you. You're fucking smart. If anyone's going to have to out-negotiate a fucking demon, it's not me. And Everett would be over in a corner going, it's not the right thing. So we know it's you.
Jury's still out for me on whether it's good or bad, but I will draw your attention to the fact that you're all describing it as a demon or a monster.
Yeah, but I'm a monster. Look at fucking you. You got a fucking bullet hole in your forehead right now.
Yeah, I don't like it.
We're vampires. We're monsters.
Okay, so we all agree. Demon, gentle concern, probably useful if the Inquisition shows up with flamethrowers again. Iggy and Drac, big old fucking question mark. And the orphans, maybe research, and then we can start trying to, throw them off their game before we storm in, rather than just charging a castle and getting shot in the face. So what do? We need to lay low. So now's probably the planning time. Also, I can't leave this room, and Everett has to be my nurse. Just a thing that's happening. So Everett and I could do research into the orphans. They got that Google Street View where I can go around and go that looks like fucking crime. And then Everett can go see if it's a front. We got Emily, who's probably setting you up with some sort of fancy house.
Yeah.
So do you want to move there and try to find Iggy? I don't know. If you're here, we're all here to protect each other. If you're all for family, you're a demon and she's a fucking werewolf. So it's not like you're solo, but I don't know what you want to do.
I'll likely split my time.
That makes sense. Okay, so you get to a new place. We got that fucking piece of shit that you caught. Can we bring him here, or did we just open him up till he sings songs of whoever stabbed you?
Yeah, sure. I'll text Emily.
And with that, the 2-week span of planning, recovery, and from the sounds of things, some light torture begins.
This episode of Blood and Syrup features the voices of Ryan LaPlante at the Ryan LaPlante on Twitter, Tyler Hewitt at Tyler_Hewitt on Twitter, Megan Miles at Meggie Miles on Twitter, and Storyteller Tom McGee at McGeeTD on Twitter. This episode's sound was edited and mixed by Laura Hamstra, and all of Dum Dums and Dice's logos are by Decapitated Markers at Decapitated Marker on Twitter. That's MRKR. Our theme songs are What's Really Going On Right Now by Chase Allen Willis and Traffic by Kai Engel, and all our ads use the tracks No Control and Chiefs by Jazzar, that's JAHZZAR. All of their music is available on freemusicarchive.org. When it comes to Dumb Dumbs and Dice, you can visit our website at dumbdumbdice.com. Our Twitter and Instagram are at dumbdumbdice, and on Facebook at facebook.com/dumbdumbdice. We've also got merchandise at redbubble.com/people/dumbdumbdice. And most importantly, you can join our Patreon of Darkness at patreon.com/dumbdumbdice. That's DUMBDUMBDICE. Sleep well, children of the night. Spooky.
Dum Dums and Dice has to give a special thank you to the supreme beings of our Patreon at this time. Christian Menicola, Long Long, the Half-Blind Prophet, James Cuellar, Charles Grams, Christopher Little, Sue One, George Dolby, One True Artistry, Orion Birchfield, Lord of Bradovic, Noel Lewis, Scott Garland, Anthony Griffin, Chet Awesome Laser, Jordan Neesmith, Benjamin V, Gavin and Abby McDonald, Taryn Hefner, and Jill and Noel LaPlante. If you want your name to be added to this list, you can join our Patreon too at patreon.com/dumbdumbdice. Thanks to them, and a little bit of thanks to you.